that could balance the tables a little bit, and we could be in for a great map.
One thing that I will say. One thing that I will say is when we saw this map played between G2 and NAVI, this map was very new into the pool.
Yes.
Teams hadn't had long to work on it, long to scrim on it, long to necessarily prepare for it competitively. That's not the case now. It's been in the pool for much longer. G2, I would expect to be more prepared.
Why are we whispering?
I don't know. I'm just not shouting. That's all.
It's really weird.
It sounds like whispering for me.
It's really weird because normally I'd expect you to be like, last time these two teams played on this one, Des, it went down this way actually. I'm really excited for it.
We're going. No, we're not.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'll say it if we get there. Don't you worry. But yeah, I think, we expect to see a little bit more out of G2 this time around. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think, given, like you say, the performance on Chalet, Doki may be struggling to get himself going today. It could be a tough one for Navi here. And, the guys on the desk said themselves it could be a 2-0. And I think they could be right here. G2 have shown up and they've been a little bit of a different outfit today than we might have expected.
Absolutely. Looking at these bans rifling through, this time around Navi snag away that buck and they're like, no, it's our ban to make this time. You can't steal away our ban. Hibana on the other side, surprising absolutely no one. In case you are curious about why you see so many Hibana bans on this map, well, it's because there are so many hatches when you're attacking down into the basement, often considered to be the best site. Although, open area for me at least is starting to creep up as being one of the more, I don't want to say like best sites, but I think it's the most exciting to watch.
It's fun.
There's just so much fun stuff that goes on. There's long range gunfights that go on. There's choke points to push your way through. We've seen an Oryx go charging out of the staff room wall, for example, to try and kill the Heart Breacher on the other side. There's all kinds of madness that can ensue for sure. Now, they joked about it in the bans. They said, Hungry's going to play Operator Roulette. And I wanted to be like, when doesn't he do that? I always describe him as the augment on this team. He'll pick a variety of different operators, going between Capitao, Lion, Ying, Flores, Monty. He goes through the whole lot, and you may well see that here. At least he's going back to the old classic, going onto the Ying, because we all know how strong those executes can be inside of the basement.
Certainly do. We're going to have a fairly standard setup, it looks like. We've got Doki just putting those ADSs down in red corridor, which tell me that somebody is going to be playing on that wall. Likely saves on the smoke. He's going to play from a different range. He may play up on the wall looking to make the challenge, or he may play deeper back in lockers looking to throw those Toxic Babe canisters onto the default plant spot. So he will try and hold on to that red corridor, and he's got all the utility he needs to do.
I don't know if that was a one-map invention, by the way, in the previous one, where Nathan Blur kind of swapped roles, but here they've kind of swapped back, where Nath is going onto the more defensive role of the Echo, and you've got Blur stepping across onto the Mozzie, likely looking...
Taking some damage.
Yeah, a little shotgun blast every now and then to keep you awake, make sure you're still with us.
The thing is...
Would you imagine if I just randomly leant across in the middle of a cast and punched you to make sure you were still awake?
I mean,
that's basically what he's done there.
I can't say as I'd be ecstatic about it, Des, but... You don't strike... I don't know. You don't strike me as... I don't think you'd do me too much damage, so I think we'd be all right.
I don't know if that's you saying I'm weak or that I like you enough that I wouldn't deliberately try and hurt you.
You take it however you like.
I shall do.
You haven't been to the gym for a while, that's all I'll say.
It has been a fair while. Let's see how this game, or this round at the very least, works out then. Stepping into round one, as mentioned, we are down in the basement. And I'm looking to the damage that can be done by these Doki, you little rat. He's out of a window straight away. He's killed the Ying that was the main executions plan for G2 and got back in the building alive. What is this?
Cannot be allowed, Virtue.
A zoo?
The thing is, they've got him stuck now. He is stuck. He's going to have to fight his way out of this. They know exactly where he is, so Virtue's going to hold this angle for as long as necessary. He's being drawn, they're watching everything, and they're just going to pin him down in there. But the problem is, Doki can sit there effectively. They have to go and challenge him. They try, and Kayak gets shut down, and Doki is just going to play from here. He's just going to sit here, because he can.
What?
He's wasting time.
Sending the drones. Where are the Yokais? Give him a hand. Oh, they've got him on the down, but they don't know. He's wasted through 2 grenades. He's killed a drone. He's killed 2 people. This has been a dream start for Doki. Finally gets finished off. But that's the kind of impact you want your entry player to have. He's killed the most pivotal part of this attack in the Ying. It's a beautiful start for Navi.
Oh, he's got lucky. There's no two ways back. You go out of those windows, you take those spawn peaks, you don't always know who you're going to get. You get your Ying, you get your Thermite, you're laughing. Guess what? They got both of them. Absolutely unreal from Doki. We said that he'd had a little bit of a tough start on Chalet, but he certainly certainly comes in here and shows that Bank might just be his map right now. G2, they're looking to scramble here. They're looking to see what they can make. The investment is not on an upturn at the minute, Des. They are struggling.
The most tragic thing is they can only get one hatch as well because the Thermite died. Kayak is not the one you wanted to be taking that challenge, but he was. You'd be asking for it to really to be Citizen, but he was the other side of the map, so it's gone all kinds of wrong here. Literally getting the two best operators to kill at the start of a round is even bigger as an emphasis point. So G2 have now got to either brute force their way down blue stairs, which appears to be the plan for Citizen, but the other two want to play their way down a hatch most likely. There's so much still for them to do, and there's only 30 seconds on the clock. If you wanted to see one player win a round and what that looked like, well, you've just bore witness to it.
Exactly that now then. Trying to get control over servers. G2 being cautious. They don't really need to be too much. There's nobody in there holding. 14 seconds left to go. They just need to get themselves inside a site and start putting that diffuser down. But the Toxic Babe smoke is going to preventing that. One nade. We know there's 3 ADSs there. It's going to be difficult for them to clear out any sort of path through red corridor. Citizen somehow manages to get in behind the bomb chassis, but the shots onto the Yokai drone are late. It prevents that plant, and NAVI take the first defense successfully.
That is one of the... I don't want to say calm, because it was pretty chaotic. If you were Monty there hungry, I think you would have killed me. Yeah, just maybe. I mean, it's just one of those. I'm like, all the action happened in the first, 45 seconds, then Doki died, and no one else died throughout the rest of the round. It was very calm, and the plant attempt was stopped by a Yokai. It was the most, I don't know, peaceful round end I've ever seen.
Hungry saying he was ready for it. He knew that Doki would jump out, and it just goes to show, these top players, it's not always your choice. You can't always beat them. Even if you know what they're going to do, you can't always get the jump on them. So
you gave him a freak.
An interesting start to Bank, and I'm sure aggression that is going to continue here. If NAVI have had a little bit of joy, Doki will likely continue.
Did you hear that sizzle from Hungry?
I did.
Buy him back in. I love it. Right, let's see how things shape up then inside of open area and staff room. Again, that castle coming in, and I am excited. Why am I excited? Because it's a castle. Castle gives you lots of options as defenders to come up with interesting setups. And here at the very least, they're looking to do a little bit of work on the top floor. Play the vertical angles, contest it from above, and then likely try and find a way to fall back down to site itself. I mentioned that right now, for me at least, this is the most exciting site on this map, so I'm keen to see how things play out.
Secret are just going to castle barricade off that double door opening, so they're not going to be able to push directly in through single window without doing some renovation work and clearing that out. Setup still going on into the action phase. Nothing too unusual about that. There is a lot to be done. As you can see, we've got a castle barricade up on the top floor there, so Secretly has been all over this map trying to get himself set up. Now a little bit late to stop that line of sight being open, so G2 have got themselves some good access in terms of a line of sight, at least from single window, all the way back to the end of open area there.
That's the beautiful thing, right? You now cut off essentially a third of open area, which in itself is quite impactful to be able to rotate through and play around. So you are restricting NAVI ever so slightly. Up on the top floor, it's Nath looking to do a bit of contesting. Hungry, making up for last round in bringing down Blur on the entry. And Nath already starting to chew his way through those smoke canisters in a bit of a panic to try and stem the bleeding, slow G2 down and get himself back onto site, or in this case, all the way down into the basement.
Dropping himself down one hatch after another. He can rotate up and challenge onto electrical here, but I'm not sure if Citizen is aware that that might be the plan. Drones are being allowed to sort of run free here. Saves finally takes that one down, but we also saw the smoke of Nath missing one as he just went down the hatches, and it's just allowing G2 to have a good idea of what's going on, but they're now down to 4, so somewhat more limited.
It's a nice little crossfire here. As long as Saves doesn't die, they've got a really good angle out towards Electric to stop them losing control of Square. I don't think G2 are aware that Nath dropped down into basement and came back up these stairs, by the way. He can get himself into a really good position, net a couple of kills if G2 aren't careful, but here they're still wandering around the top floor, bearing in mind we're about 100 seconds through the round. They've barely got the control that they actually need to think about the site.
Kite's going to get that hatch open inside of stock. That is going to open up access to what would be the primary plant spot that we see inside of open area, which is basically drop the hatch and get the diffuser down. So that access is now gained. Vertical angles being opened up to try and prevent that contest coming in from Tellers. Now, Virtue is aware that somebody's playing out in the ATM lobby, I think. Or he certainly thinks there is. I'm not sure if there's anybody there right now.
In lobby. I think he was peeking onto
himself
Banana.
Back away, so he's got himself back to safety. As we say, Save's just waiting on that flank potentially. Doki knows there's one on main stairs as well. He's just been held from both angles essentially at the minute, so Kayak needs to be careful here as he goes to make the move. Doki hears him, but no, it dips away. And sometimes these players, they just don't know how close they are, Des.
No, I think at this point Doki could be in a great position to try and strike, but it saves to come in first onto Citizen. One rotating the way in through the lobby here. I'm concerned that they're taking this very slow. I mean, sure, Yonka's making it so they can't easily be flanked. They'll at least see if he can hold off towards this angle.
Does he know that Doki's in there?
That's the problem. I don't think he does. Like, Doki could play massive spoiler, but Saze is having a field day, treating Bank like a playground, finding himself 2 kills. A third coming in from Nathan. This one looks done and dusted already, Tim.
And it is. The round,
Doki, there we go.
The round is over. Doki pops himself out of those elevators. G2 absolutely, completely unaware that that is where he was. I think a little bit of... We saw those drones getting away from the kills. We saw those drones moving around the map. I just don't know how much information, how much intel they were actually gathering, because G2 going into a number of locations there, just completely unaware of the challenges that were coming onto them. And NAVI able to take themselves a second round there. And this is looking sort of reminiscent of G2 on Chalet at the minute. NAVI definitely in control of Bank so far.
They are, yeah. Their own game has been pretty good so far as well. Again, Nate just dipping across all 3 floors rapidly throughout the round. And even though they'd lost that top floor control, actual site itself was still closed off. You know, you had Doki looking to contest around Bleeper, so they didn't have the west side control. They couldn't get inside a square because it was being contested by Nate. So yes, you've got the vertical, but you have no way of getting control of the perimeter rooms that you need to get inside of site itself. Really well played by NAVI, making the full use of the map. And G2 need to find a way through on this attack.
This is it. You feel like this is the one that they really need to win here, because at that point, NAVI, they cycle back through the sites. They've got themselves a good 3-0 lead. They're going to be feeling pretty confident about taking us all the way to that clubhouse decider, which I think everybody would like to see. It's been an entertaining game so far. Nice shots, plenty of aggression. It's been a very open game. They've not been sort of, you know, castling up and just turtling inside a site for 2.5 minutes, these defences. They've been getting out there and trying to win the round actively rather than passively.
Third round in a row, we're going to see this castle being brought out by Secretly as well. Similar setup as before, where they do want some control up on that top floor just to make it a bit more defendable. And in case you're wondering about why it's the left window that does get barricaded as well, it's because you get a wonderfully cheeky angle from the windows all the way through in towards front desk. And, well, it's not very pretty when you're the player that's trying to hang around Banana to contest down into ATM. So it means Nath is a little bit safer playing up here, but now Secretly has done his work. He's back on site and looking to open up some holes into Square itself so he can contest inside of there. Bearing in mind, again, the site itself is actually inside of Tellers and Archives, but it's more because he's got open area control that he can cause a little bit of trouble and stop Square being taken by G2.
Top floor clearance coming in from G2 once again. We see one of the NAVI players just dipping themselves onto the main stairs ahead of us there, so not being forced back just yet. Saves yet again on one of those tight angles, just looking to play spoiler on the flank and try to catch people out. Now, Virtue's going to move into the top of Square, but he's doing so cautiously. Citizen trying to make the challenge onto Janitor, and right now, G2, they're trying to push multiple fronts on this top floor. They're trying to challenge and force NAVI back, but NAVI are pretty stalwart here. They're not having too much of it. 1 or 2 have dropped down to the underneath, but Saves is looking to rotate back up and continue that pressure. They've still got Blur up on the top floor, so G2 still quite a lot of work to do here.
It's the same as on Chalet, but with more problems and more of a map to deal with, where the problems that NAVI are creating form the kind of mini games in these rounds, G2 are struggling to break their way through. They're being held outside the building still, and we're 90 seconds in. Again, remembering that they're looking at the top floor here. This isn't a push onto the site itself. This is them just trying to get entry into the map in the first place. Players are on windows. They're outside the building. It is looking very slow.
Nath holding a long angle down from elevators. He's going to get himself inside of the lift there, and he's got the hatch open, so the opportunity is there for him to just dip back away from that one. Blur choosing now to drop back into sight and play there as the smoke. So that is top floor almost clear, but I say almost because, as I said, Nath still in that elevator area at the minute. Now then, if G2 aren't aware of that, they've only got 3 drones, this could be a big problem for them once again.
Talking about that information game as well. I mean, on Navi's side, it's just the one bulletproof here, but they're relying on things like the Malusi, for example, to help them waste a bit of time down. I'm just nervous for G2 because, as you say, there's no drones left, really. The information they can collect is very limited. They're just going to have to try and peek everything. And the last kill in the previous round was from Doki in elevators, completely undroned. So they could find themselves getting stung here. They really want control of Square to stop Secretly doing what he's doing, but here have opted to smoke it off and go for a push forward instead.
Secretly just blind spraying through the smoke there, hoping to catch them as they move in. He will take chunks of damage out of one after another. Citizen manages to find Nath on the top floor, but it doesn't matter because it's all going going on inside of sight at the minute. Shotguns, kills, raining in. Citizen gets himself a second, but that will be all as they manage to close out the round. NAVI take this one and go 3-0 on the scoreboard for Bank.
Not going to lie, G2 look very lost so far on this map. The problems they're being presented, even getting into the building in the first place, is looking to be a massive challenge for them.
Challengers and not know what they're heading into.
Kind of reminds me of Empire of last year when they were at the height of their kind of problems, right, and couldn't quite figure out the playstyle they wanted to bring, and Joystick went very public and said, you know, we drone something 2, 3, 4 times and still not make a move. This kind of looks like G2, where they are getting the droning information there. They know that where a player is because they lose the drone to it, and then no one takes any action. They're then droning it again and losing yet another drone, and we keep on going around in that cycle. So sometimes it's kind of saying, look, we know they're there, we don't have all the information that we need, but it's worth just going gung-ho and going for those kills, because on Chalet, they didn't always have all the map control on their attacks. They had enough to think about and execute, and would just say, look, let's just go for it and hope for the best. I want to see more of that coming out of them in these last 3 rounds.
Right, NAVI, this time, what are you going to do? Last time you broke this defence in half inside the first 40 seconds after Dorky leapt out of a window and got himself 2 very opportunistic kills onto, and quite fortunate really, the Ying and the Thermite. You can't count on that. It's not going to happen again this time. It's not going to happen again this time, Des. It's not going to happen again this time.
Give him time.
Dorky's looking to put the frighteners on them, at least playing around those windows. I don't think he's going out of them this time. So this time, NAVI, your defence has got to be a little bit different. You can't rely on that pressure from the off from Dorky. He's going to try to make a play of it up on the top floor, but as you can see, G2 already heading into the map. They know where he is. The drone, better. Virtue's in there behind it. Need to get aggressive now. Need to get confident and push forward.
Almost a team kill coming in there as well. I think as he spun around and just tried to pre-fire a little bit in towards the lobby area, hoping someone might come through and get caught out by it, but not quite to be the case. Virtue, yes. Top floor control has been established. We're in a little bit quicker here. Doki has made the smart call of killing a drone, falling back, killing a drone, falling back, and already inside 55 seconds, G2 are down to just 5 drones remaining. They're burning through these.
This is the problem. It's not even necessarily about their use of the drones and the information that they're gaining from them. It's about just keeping them active in the map. And it's something that NAVI have done very, very well, is the drone hunting, just closing them down and preventing them being able to be used actively inside of the map. Now then, the Yokai drone just being repositioned there by Nath. He's just bobbing around, checking if there's anything to be seen. We quite often see those Yokais used in more of an attacking format, going ahead of players and just doing the peeking for them so that they're not giving life away. Now then, we're going to see some alterations to site quite late in the round as well here.
I think it's because the Yokai wanted the perfect angle, but it was blocked off by the softball. So just saying, hey, please shotgun this out so I can see. That way we can stop them getting the plant. You know, the whole reason why we brought the Echo. Thank you very much. So for G2, they've kept themselves at that 5 drone count for the last 60 seconds as well. So good preservation of those. They had one going down the blue stairs to make sure, I think, server side was clear before they looked to step forwards. But for NAVI here, it's the waiting game. Just let them start stepping forwards. You've still got things to play behind. You've got 3 smoke canisters. You've got a T4 or 2. I think 2 because Blur has still got his in back pocket as well. Lots of things to play behind here. So now it comes down to this usual dance that we see around this default plant spot.
That's it. It's all about baiting out that utility now, as you say. Just trying to push in there, pretend to put that diffuser down, dip back out. G2 have got the time that they need to do that. With only 1 Toxic Babe canister left on side of NAVI, it's going to go out very, very soon, and it's going to leave G2 with about 20 seconds to be able to push in. But they could do with finding kills before they do that, really, because right now, NAVI have still got 5 on side. You can see that last Toxic Babe canister goes out, so we're going to be looking at about the 15-second mark when it's possible for Kayak to go in here. Smoke's out. That last smoke was actually just a little bit deep, Des, and it gives Kayak the opportunity to move through without taking damage. He's in a real off position here, and it's not the sort of place that NAVI will necessarily check. He does avoid the nitro that comes out, gets himself a kill afterwards, but then it's a bloodbath, it's a brawl, and G2 are coming out on top, but it's Nath in a 1v2. He finds the first onto Virtue. He just needs to find his last man Hungry. Picked up on a drone though. He moves through. He knows he's going to be in this mid-floor, trying to use the hatches. He's taking drones as he goes, but he has to find the man. The drones are no good. There's a Claymore. He takes that out as well. Utility is not his enemy. Hungry is. He drops back down. He knows there's an opportunity to go for the diffuser here, but Hungry, surely he just moves in and picks up the man. He's no option but to stick this, Nath. And that is it. Well closed out by Hungry. Nath, unfortunate, could not find that last man in the 1v2. G2, good attack.
Yeah, very well played by Hungry. hungry at the end. MVP of that round has got to be Kayak, mind you. Well-placed smokes, gets in, gets the plant down, and then kills two in the not just one, gets two in the post plant as well. There's two players, I think it was Blur and Secretly, I want to say, that was sat inside of red. They try and push in through the soft wall and ultimately lose their lives for it. It's good to see G2 finally getting things on the board. At least here it means we have a game in our hands. Otherwise, it could fall all the way down to being, 5-6 rounds to NAVI if things are carried on as before. So looking better. We go up into staff and open room. That castle staying true with us once again. And Doki on that Valkyrie, as we've seen across the series so far, being a very popular pick.
I mean, you look at it so far and you think there is a likelihood of NAVI picking up at least one more round on the defence here. I wouldn't expect to see G2 coming 3-3 out of this. So G2 are still going to have to be dominant on their defence if they want to get the win here. And that is something that maybe they can do. We saw them play defence pretty well on Chalet. They were able to be very unpredictable, move around the map. We saw Virtue having some great rounds where he was just popping up completely unexpectedly in tough locations for NAVI to deal with and getting those kills. So G2 may be confident of potentially taking the advantage on defence, but right now they could do with at least one more round. They don't want to let NAVI have these two last rounds. So the attack is going to come in onto open area. They never really got close to this one last time, Des. There was never an opportunity to get onto site, to put a diffuser down. They never really had enough control to do that.
Thought Secret might find himself crashing out there, but turns out it was us. All is well and good, and the round can resume as planned. So, G2 in that last round, admittedly here, was staring at a different side, so things may play out a little bit differently. But I think for them, they did the right sort of idea once they got themselves in the building, and we looked at it and said, wow, 50 seconds have gone by and they've lost 5 drones. That is painful. But they kept them alive for long enough then to get themselves ready for the execute. They got the drones on site, not looking to try and find players, but more just make sure that they had the right spots covered to try and look for the execute. So a little bit more of that, I think. But what did I say earlier on, Tim? I want to see more confidence. You spot a man out, pressure him. Don't re-drone it 2 or 3 times. Go hard on the pressure, and that's what they were looking to do just there. But I think Nath has been kept safe thanks to that impact nade taking out the Selma that was on the wall behind him. A great angle from Blur.
Certainly looks that way. Nath's going to hold on to Janitor for at least, I'd imagine, the next 30 to 40 seconds until G2 can go in and put more pressure on him. But as you say, the more utility that G2 use, the more difficult it is then to clear out that shield. We can see they've got 3 nades still on side, so they do have what they need. But Citizen needs to be careful about exposing himself in order to do so. Nath holding a very fine angle there for anybody who pushes in towards stock.
It's one thing I've clocked G2 haven't done this entire half is push into ATMs. It's very common to see a Finka and Iana, for example, step into ATMs, try and nade the player that's on banana, because then you wouldn't have the Wamai able to sit where he is to provide some cover. It's a really strong power position, but here comes the rush on site. Virtue finding Doki, and G2 may have just strong-armed their way into the site.
And that's exactly what they needed, but secretly he starts swinging back and manages to find a kill onto Kayak across from the staff area. Now then, Blur, he's low health, he's holding down from Tellers. He could be extremely important to this NAVI defense here because he's going to be able to alleviate a lot of the pressure that could potentially be built up by G2 if they try to push down into square and aggress onto site from that side. But for the time being, the focus seems to be around the top floor and continuing towards that potential hatch.
You say that now, looking at how I set up 2 players inside of Archives itself, contesting in towards Square. I'm surprised Yonkers managed to step his way across, but G2 have got the spots they need. They just need to be careful about someone coming in from below, and with 2 drones left, they can't really afford to watch that flank. They need those drones to clear out the site, clear out the map itself. So we'll see what comes from this. With that diffuser down inside the site, though, Virtue likely needs to be the player that steps in, but secretly has already found one victim from this spot inside of the kitchen area, so we'll keep a close eye on him and see if he can clean up Virtue as well.
Blur's just going to continue holding that angle from Tellers. And he could be an absolute nightmare for G2 here if they don't deal with it. 20 seconds left to go. They need to think about getting themselves into sight. Hungry tries to do so. It's secretly that's going to find him with the super shorty. The shots rain across, and all of a sudden it starts to fall apart on both sides. But G2, 2 down, and Yonka all alone now, pushing inside a sight. Takes the damage from this Toxic Babe canister and gets shut down.
Massive from Secretly. We spoke about that position he was holding, and Virtue would be his target. No, gets challenged from a different angle. Gets the kill with the super shorty, swings immediately on towards looking onto the south side of Printer, and finds his 3rd victim of the round. Really big round for him. And for NAVI to move at 4-1 here, looks like map 3 may be on the agenda.
Certainly looking like it could be a possibility at this point in time. We're going to be going to Tellers and Archives for our final defensive site for NAVI as we move towards the halfway mark. But as you say, NAVI just absolutely dominating things at the minute. It is an easy day for them on Bank. It wasn't on Chalet. They took a tough day there, but ultimately able to fight back here.
Absolutely. I'm liking how things are shaping up. I'd love to say if we get to the map of Clubhouse as our final map of the year that you and I are going to cast in 2021, it being a clubhouse between G2 and NAVI, I'm sure there are some better maps out there or better matchups we'd love to see. But to me, that is still a classic matchup in EUL that I'd be delighted to see as our last game of the season, assuming, of course, that we get there. When G2 go on to the defense, this could completely flip and you find their defensive record proves to be better than NAVI's. But if NAVI closes and make it a 5-1, that is going to be hard to beat.
It is going to be hard to beat. It's going to be very difficult for G2 to turn that around. As I said, they did play well defensively on Chalet, but still not going to be easy to fight back from that point. So G2, they're going to have to pull something out here. You really feel that they need the 4-2. They need to find themselves a successful attack on this one. Virtue heading up to the rooftop very quickly. It looks like once again, as we see quite often on Bank, it's going to be the focus towards that top floor clearance, try and get that vertical control. But to be honest, even if gaining vertical control, it's not something that G2 so far have been able to use to any great success. They've never really been comfortable. They've always had NAVI just prodding and poking and trying to make life difficult for them on the flanks.
It's beautiful stuff. All right then, once again, we've got Tellers being held, Archives being held down by NAVI. They really have all of this game contested into square. Again, there's been no focus out towards lobby or ATMs. G2 never once opting to try and push their way through. So NAVI are like, if you just want to keep on throwing bodies at square where you need to come in through windows and a single doorway, that's totally fine by us. We're more than happy to look and try and meet you there with Doki hanging around the main stairs. Secretly though, proving the UMP, maybe not quite the worst gun in the game, as one man once told us all, gets a kill for himself. Virtue evening back out and now into a 4 versus 4.
Blur just holding on. It's something that NAVI have done well so far, has been holding on to this janitor location again, and that's been part of the difficulty for G2 in getting this top floor control, has been moving them out of this power position. The deployable shield is still in there. Blur this time shut down by Jonker. That is much better from G2. 4 versus 3 now, and it just gives them the opportunity to push on across that top floor and start making life difficult for NAVI inside a site.
I'd love to see Doki come back up main stairs here and try and contest. I know that he dropped off quite early. Jonker was the one who managed to get up there, and here I think he's thinking about it. Maybe more looking in towards open area here as well, stepping in to give some more support out towards square side because they've lost both Nath and Blur, and here he is just waiting. If a man comes stepping into Printer, guess what? He's going to have their number.
Virtue just clearing out utility there. Kite taking a little bit of damage from somewhere. Not sure whether that was a shot or maybe something else causing that. But Citizen just holding on at that single window at the moment, trying to move into open. He's going to do that now then. He's got 2 to contest with 1. Doki, it's going to be an easy kill surely here. Doki makes the first challenge and finds him on the second. 3 versus 3, but Jonker once again manages to get something going for G2. We've seen that a couple of times in the last few rounds. 3 versus 2 now. 40 seconds left to go.
1 becomes 2 as Doki is joined by Saves, his co-rat throughout these games, it feels like so far, looking for G2 to come pushing in. Great angles being held, sees the man create around the corner, it's Virtue. Down he goes, but Plant is being stuck. Do they know? Can they contest? Doki gets swung on Jonker with a 3k in the round, and the Plant goes down. As disruptive as NAVI have been, it's a 1 versus 2, gets shut down by Kayak. A great end to the half for G2, giving themselves a second round, making it 4-2 to NAVI.
They needed that, as we said, coming into it. They sorely needed that because otherwise you find yourself 5-1 down and you need an almost perfect...
2, it's their last, air quotes, official series before they go to SI. There are no more chances. This is their last chance to practice in a live environment. And the thing is, like, I think Doki said it, is like, you know, scrims have been going amazingly well. They're playing great, beating loads of teams. But when it comes to officials, just all of that goes out the window. Again, there are no second chances. This is your last chance at a live environment before you go to LAN. And you'd hope going to LAN would be massive for them. But it needs to be worked out. They need to get on top of this now because you can't afford, in the group stage of SI, for example, to then start trying to get things right.
G2 going to take us down to the basement to begin with. and try to lock out their first defensive round. You feel like this is an important one here. It's the first defense for G2. If they can get this one done, it puts them around on the board. It gets them within one. They're in touching distance to NAVI then, and you start feeling like they can get something going. If they don't get this, then NAVI, they've got that attack. They've stretched their legs. They've got the 3-round buffer, and it is a big, big difference between 1 and 3 rounds here in Siege, when NAVI only need to get themselves onto that 7 to get themselves the map and take us all the way to 3. So Kayak, he's going to open the rotation in from the vault side onto site. That's going to mean they can move around. They can rotate out there if needs be, if the hatch starts getting pressured.
You can see G2's reliance on the information game probably a little more than what we saw out of NAVI, because again, here we've got the Valkyrie, we've got the Maestro, and oh look, a bulletproof. It's just like it was back on Chalet, but they're doubled down on it even more, bringing along a pulse. So such a big information game. I think because they know again from Chalet, NAVI will make a mistake somewhere. They will leave a gap in the defense and we can capitalize. How do we capitalize? How do we know the right timing? We bring information. So I like they're playing to that strength of their own, but also the weakness of NAVI.
Doki then just trying to be that aggressive player on the entry, trying to get in there again. We haven't seen him have too much success on the attack so far. There's drones going in ahead of him. He knows there's an opportunity on main stairs there. Tries to push it, cannot find the angle, and the player's going to dip away. It's Jonker on the Jaeger that's just trying to be aggressive, but not overly so. He's just dipping back as each drone pushes him, as each challenge comes in. He's not going to give his life away too quickly.
Well, Doki is the front man in here, looking to take an initial challenge. Grenade in his hand, could have got a bit more damage down, maybe if that wasn't the case, but Jonker down to about half HP, so not perfect for them just yet, but still damage done is a favourable advantage for NAVI to have. Doki's pulled back, and I think the members of G2 now aware that he's pushing down main stairs. They're sat here thinking, right, let's not go and push him just yet, but let's be ready in case he does. He's just here really as flank watch to Nathan, get these hatches opened up so the rest of the team can do their work, essentially just trying to box G2 in step by step.
NAVI getting control over square now, getting the hatches open, so the vertical pressure will potentially start to build for G2. Hungry for the time being is going to hold on to blue stairs. He's likely to play his life there and do as much as he can. Citizen manages to find one with the Nitro onto Blur, so that gives G2 the opener and the advantage. G2 just looking to hold on to servers with some real ferocity here. Citizen playing in there behind that server stack. He's not going anywhere. They've got Hungry on main stairs going absolutely nowhere, and they're making this as difficult as possible for NAVI right now.
They are, and are really safe to be pushing up here as well. There we go, does finally get the trade in. Nate hasn't died, but is down but not out. Hungry falling to a similar fate, a 4 versus 2 dream scenario for NAVI. You've got so much time still to play with. They can afford to take their time here because now the smoke's gone as well. They can't stall out the default plant spot.
Jonker, he's looking to get aggressive up main stairs. We've seen this from him throughout this round so far. He's been challenging on this and just dropping back and just playing a little bit of a cat and mouse game with NAVI. Kayak with a beautiful reverse angle on the hatch there. Jonker gets one onto Doki. It's all falling apart right now. NAVI had themselves an advantage, but they've thrown it away. It's all up to Saves 1v2, but he pulls the utility out at a bad time there, a bad moment, and he gets shut down.
That's a real kicker as well. A 4 versus 2 given away. 35 seconds on the clock, for example. So much was going in Navi's favour. And then King Kayak himself steps up with a massive 3k off the Elder. A small slip up by Navi does give G2 an angle back in this game. They lose that round. It's 5-2. You have a good idea which way the map is going. But at 4-3, G2 win this one. Things are all even, and they're on the more favourable half of bank. I'd start to feel a little bit worried if I were Navi. They've already used their timeout, let's not forget as well.
Yep, that's already gone. That's burnt. Like you say, no real opportunity to make too much of an adjustment. And, you know, coming in here, we saw NAVI do well on the defence, and you think, well, it's NAVI on bank. They beat G2 previously. You know, maybe this is just more of the same, but not necessarily the case. It could just be that they are finding that bank has those defensive strengths, and it's something that maybe G2 will be using as well. Now, we're going to move on to round number 8, second defensive round for G2. It's going to be open area and staff room this time around, and they are looking to get themselves a second successful defence. And the thing is, if they do this, they're 4-0 on the scoreboard then, and NAVI, they have got G2 breathing down their neck and looking to claim third place overall in a UL.
And look again, once more, a very heavy utility lineup coming in. 1 bulletproof, 3 intel-based operators. Just keep playing into that if you feel like it can work. So much so that Nate has opted to step across and bring the IQ. They've had enough of the shenanigans, enough of the black eyes disrupting them, and this round, enough of the yoke eyes that might yet ruin them. I didn't keep account of it, but I'd love to know how many unique operators Hungry has played on this map. He's been on the Zofia, the Ying, like he stepped through so much, and even here on the defensive side of things, also rotating through. Is again, truly is the Augment player, the playing operator roulette, I think it was, that Navi joked in the pre-game.
It certainly seems that way. It's like he's got a little wheel next to him that he's just spinning before each round and see where it lands. Now then, Citizen going to take damage inside a sight from that window. Just needs to be careful about over-peaking now, because he could well quickly find himself taken out of this round. So he's no doubt going to drop back and just play a little bit deeper, which is exactly what we see. Navi trying to get in aggressively onto that top floor, and Doke being the one drawn in ahead of himself, looking to gather some intel, get whatever he can out of this. Now then, the castle barricade on Tellers, that's going to indicate to him that there's likely somebody playing inside of there potentially. It was a position that we saw Saves take up a couple of times and get some joy from, so it's something that Navi need to be aware of.
Citizen had 2 Black Eyes still in pocket here at the 2-minute 5 mark. He has just thrown another one out. Surely he's not thinking about a C4 there. I think he might just be too far across for him to collect that, at least from downstairs. It will be through in the wall. Has to go out underneath into square if they want to be able to net that one out. Maybe I'll try and look for it, but this is what the kind of game plan is from G2. Information game, 3 C4s, catch Navi on the vertical, end the round before they even get to step in. First one comes out, was looking for Blur, but he was a little bit too quick on his feet. Not going to find himself taken down.
Blur here, just opening up those vertical angles above Tellers. You know, so the suggestion being the castle barricade is there. There's potentially somebody playing in there. We need to make sure that that's not the case, that we're not going to be held from that location. So just looking to prevent G2 being able to do that on the defence. But G2, they're looking pretty good so far. They've managed to keep themselves, I was going to say, away from danger, but out goes the nade there. Beautiful play from Doki to finalise that kill, manages to get it with the explosive, and that takes Jonker down and gets Navi the opener.
Yeah, great response by Doki as well. Must have seen that coming in on a flank drone position downstairs in the elevator hallway, and collects Jonker, who was coming up by himself. G2 generally have been successful when they have 1 or 2 players coming from different angles. Think back to the bathroom balcony, for example, on Chalet, when it was Virtue and Citizen pushing onto Doki. 1 player coming up by himself, a little bit risky, you'd probably argue. However, it's a kill to Navi nonetheless. With him off the board, it's also the C4 taken away if it wasn't deployed. There's one in the back pocket still for Citizen, but fair to say, this whole C4 information game coming out of G2 been handled very well by Navi.
It has, exactly that. They've really got to grips with exactly what is going on. Citizen just holding a really long angle through here. It's not going to be easy.
Hits him.
He does hit him. Virtue manages to get the kill. It's 3 versus 4 as they trade in either direction. Time is ticking down though, but at 2 versus 4, you got to say this is going to be difficult for G2. Citizen is locked deep inside a site, opens that castle barricade, but tries to give him the switcheroo and move the other way. Gets caught out, as does the last remaining member of G2, and that is going to be the round for Navi.
Great little drop coming in there as well, coming in through a couple of hatches at the same time to make sure they connected the kills that they needed. And close it out indeed, 5 and 3. You feel like, again, it's still pretty tense. You don't know really if G2 are going to find a couple of rounds here and bring it back to 5 and 5. Bearing in mind, that is the only site that Navi have been successful on so far. Yes, we've only seen 2 rounds, but basement wasn't exactly a pretty picture for them. Let's see then. Well, I say that. They were in a 4 versus 2, just couldn't quite close things out. Going to go right to the top floor, though. This is a site that we don't see all that often. We saw G2 Navi rotate through the 2 ground floor sites, the basement, but never really once stepping up to the top floor. G2 feeling they've maybe got some magic in the trunk here to make this work.
So it might just take a dash of magic in order to do it. We've got Citizen on the Bandit, which is a little bit of an unusual sight. We don't see too much Bandit at all nowadays. We tend to, obviously, Kaid being banned out. It's, you know, one of the other denial options. But generally speaking, teams will sort of make do with Mute. But since the recent buffs, it's a little bit of a different situation. Mute not quite as effective, particularly on ranged attempts at breaches like this one for elevators. So just choosing to bring that Bandit along instead.
You're probably going to find Virtue plays around elevators here because he is pivotal to keeping those walls closed. The reason why they want to keep them closed here is because you'll stick someone out on the far west rappel, you open this wall, they can see down the entirety of this white corridor and basically cut off a very key place for the defenders to be playing. Now, if Virtue can sit in here and deny grenades from clearing those away, perfect scenario. They keep them closed up. No one, the defenders can rotate very freely up and down here. And this is really interesting. The last time these 2 teams played this map, I already mentioned, it was 7-2 to Navi. They crushed G2. It was Navi that were playing this strat where they were playing out in the corridor with the shield looking up towards square, but you can also challenge on towards the stock window. So I like that there's kind of a reverse here where Na'Vi, like G2 did in the previous game, they played a much more defensive and play inside of Janitor, whereas G2 are the ones getting more aggressive here and playing like Na'Vi did before and getting out inside the hallway. So it's almost like the two teams have just switched places here.
Gon6 being used to open up one of those castle barricades and just make Citizen's position a little more precarious. He's going to hold on for as long as possible, I'm sure. He's going to look to play his entire life, if he can, inside of the office secretly on that rappel. A little bit more restricted than maybe once it used to be, because a lot of the windows have been sort of barricaded off now with those metal shutters, so makes things a little bit more difficult, but they're dealing very well with this elevator position. And NAVI just managing to get the wall opened up, using that utility wisely. They get the opener onto Kayak as well, and now have man advantage.
I think they really want the right side open up as well here, but kept on missing out onto those bandit batteries, so I think that one side stays clear. Virtue a little bit safer, and as long as you watch the angle, you can probably still play in and around this corridor. Just got to keep a close eye on it. There we go. Now they've finally removed it off. Is that a bit too low? It might be just about right to give them a small angle down. No, that's far too low. They can see a little bit, but they're going to have to open up the higher part too. There we go. If that were to be denied, that would be a massive kicker for them. But now they finally achieved what they want inside a minute and 45. The corridor being opened up.
That's it. Secretly, he's got the long view that he needed all the way down to the bottom there. And there's a man stuck inside of the elevator. The yellow pin coming out to tell them that that's exactly where he is. But can't move for the time being. There's one beneath. There's the angle being watched. Virtue is almost out of this round, and he will be out of this round as Blur manages to find the kill with the nade there. It comes flying in and does the damage that is needed to take the Wamai down. That leaves us now 5 versus 3. 45 seconds left for Na'Vi here. The next thought has to be, how are they going to get access to site?
First time probably this game I feel like we've seen a lobby takeover. All admittedly the site definitely leaning in towards that, but still worth noting. Doki pushing his way up onto Banana. He's got Blur on the window for support as well, but they need to find the men. They found one up on the table. Hungry a little too high there, far too easy to bring down, and sure enough a 4 versus 1 coming into play. Citizen cannot do it all. Na'Vi get another round on the board, and now it's starting to feel like map 3 is inevitable.
Certainly does. 6-3 now for Na'Vi. Like you say, G2 not really able to get anything going on the defence since that first round where they were able to sort of sneak one on the basement, but they're going to head back down there now that it is available once again. And they're going to try to at least get something going in these final few rounds. I mean, they just haven't really been able to hold on to key areas of the map, Des. We saw it there. Na'Vi dealing with elevators extremely well, able to shut it down, just making life very, very difficult for them.
They are indeed. Now, this is a round when we head back down into the basement. Not forgetting that Na'Vi were 4 versus 2 at the close of this last round. King Kayak himself with a massive 3K on the Maestro, who's returning back onto that operator in this round. A small change in setup coming in for G2 as well, where they're not leaning so much on Denial here, or of Denial at least in terms of C4s. They've got the Jaeger, they've got the Wamai, for example. Really looking to deny away the grenade play coming out of Na'Vi, given they saw so many in the last round singing in towards that elevator stack. But on Na'Vi's side, they've only got the 4 here. And their alternative, which I quite like, by the way, to a Hibana, which has been banned away, is to bring the 0, bring along 2 of those hard breach gadgets. And it's not quite as, you know, plentiful, should we say, as a Hibana would be, but you can still get 2 hatches opened very comfortably. And it gives you a lot of information. Are you really going to complain?
Well, exactly that. Like you say, you know, just so many added bonuses, so many added benefits from doing that. Now, the Kayak just getting that second evil eye put down at the bottom of elevators there. So they're going to have quite a good bit of vision going in towards the plant spot, towards the bottom of main stairs. It's going to be very difficult for Na'Vi to operate in those areas. But, of course, those evil eyes were changed recently, and if anybody can get close to them, they can just smash the glass with a melee hit. So that is another option for Na'Vi should they choose to approach more from elevators and from the main lobby drop. But we don't really see that main lobby drop used. We did initially when Bank got launched. There were teams wanting to open that hatch and maybe use it as a bit of a threat, but we haven't seen it go on too much. It's pretty much gone back to the server-sided push and getting those hatches in open area, inside a square, and using that vertical pressure.
Pace at which Doki is moving here. He really wants his entry engagement, and he finds it as well. Big, aggressive kill coming in. We saw him in first person there the whole way through, being droned in, and as soon as that drone got shot out, he was in there to charge and capitalize. Great stuff, and Yonkers down. It was kind of a mix of stuff and start there. I didn't really know where I was going with that word. Staff, I guess.
Staff. Virtue feeding the information in from that pulse scanner that he's getting back. He knows that they're going to be opening up the hatch any time. The information is coming into the rest of his team. But right now, there's not too much that G2 can do with that information. That is the key, because there's no verticality from basement, realistically, onto the positions that those attackers are taking up. So right now, G2 are stuck. They are just waiting at this point for NAVI to push into a position where they can make a challenge onto them.
I like for at least now on Navi's side how fast they've got control of what they need here as well, right? Inside, 75 seconds, they had full control of the map around them. They've got the hatches being opened up. Things are just looking really good for them in the round, but now it's about converting it into the round win itself. You've got the most of G2 sat down playing behind this information game still. One drops through and Navi already, sorry, not Navi, Doki already being taken out here. Blur with another grenade kill. Even with the Jaeger and the Wamai on side, they're still netting these explosive kills, Ace.
And here comes the final push. 45 seconds left to go, and as suggested, NAVI have actually got themselves the drop on the elevator side. Citizen holding the angle here from the bottom of main stairs, but it's going to be Hungry that beats him to it with a kill onto Secretly. 3 versus 3, and this round is looking more and more difficult for NAVI, but Blur manages to get one. Can the push come in from saves? Yes, it can. This looks like it could be over for G2. Just 10 seconds ago, they were 3 versus 3 and holding on, but it slipped away, Des. It looks like NAVI lockdown bank. The diffuser is going down. It's all up to Virtue, but he is stuck in no man's land at the minute. He's held down by angles, and it's unlikely that he can make a challenge here. 1 versus 3 in the post plant. He has to find something. He has to start finding kills, and what a beauty onto the head of Nath. Can he find himself a second? No. The peek comes in from the door, but not enough for him to make the challenge. It's all up to Virtue. He sees the head, but he can't land the shots. 22 seconds now left to go, and that timer is ticking down rapidly for Virtue. He has to do something in the next 11 seconds or he's not going to have time. And as you say, almost certainly gone. He doesn't get the kill. It was just a matter of time. It was cat and mouse back and forward, and ultimately the final kill does come in.
Like I said earlier on, I feel like this series would give us a great end to the year on Clubhouse between these two teams. Feels like quite a neutral map for both to step onto. We've seen a great chalet coming out of G2, a brilliant bank coming out from Na'Vi, and Clubhouse could be a colossal close to the season for both of these teams.
It really could. It's going to be fireworks.